I want you so bad, alpha cracker. I want you. I wanna say yes, I can't resist. I want you. Ooh, I want you, alpha cracker. I want you so bad, alpha cracker. I don't make one kasa.
Alpha goodness rich in milk and butter. In Alpha Cracker. Yummy and deliciously crunchy.
But I can't resist you.
Alpha Crackers. Simply irresistible.
This advert is FDA approved.
Now,
125 Ghana cedis. According to the auditors, this was done, the payment was done to Zoom Lion without confirmation of the services rendered from the assembly. And in the opinion of the auditors, the assemblies have lost funds by paying for services which no benefits were derived. And they have therefore advised the Assembly to get in touch with the administrator of the District Assembly Common Fund to effect a recovery of the said amount. What action have you taken with regards to this recommendation?
Thank you, Chair. Please, the necessary document supporting the work done was misfiled. So as at the time the auditors came, there was a problem. So later, we submitted the document to the auditor, and then they have fully verified.
So you benefited from the fumigation?
Yes, please.
Auditors, apparently they benefited from the fumigation. And you say it doesn't benefit them.
now,
Susu sang kwai bi a wan to nam bia e man kwai bebre.
Mommy, you face can see about Kotoso. Pepoga, send me sika from Lemonade Finance. While Brian did the shit and let me £2.
Lemonade Finance.
Say they're sending money back home from UK, Canada, and now US. I accepted a instant charges. Exchange waiting in Suya. Unbeatable. We should be promo code Dr. Like £10, $10, and $10 for the first transaction. What is send this guy coffee? Download to Lemonade Finance.
I want you so bad, alpha cracker. I want you. I wanna say yes, I can't resist. I want you. Ooh, I want you, alpha cracker. I want you so bad, alpha cracker. I don't make one kasa.
Alpha goodness rich in milk and butter. In Alpha Cracker. Yummy and deliciously crunchy.
But I can't resist you.
Alpha Crackers. Simply irresistible.
This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome to the Ghana ICT Hub, a partnership between MTN Ghana and the Government of Ghana through the Ministry of Communications and Digitization. MTN pledged to support Ghana's digitization agenda in line with its ambition to lead the delivery of digital solutions for Africa's progress. In fulfillment of this pledge, MTN Ghana has committed $25 million toward the realization of the Ghana ICT Hub project. The objectives of the Ghana ICT Hub project is anchored on the following: to create an ICT-enabled environment for human capital and ICT skills development, to develop an ICT ecosystem through remote access delivery to facilitate job creation for national development, to provide a modern, state-of-the-art physical infrastructure to serve as a pillar for the digital Ghana agenda. The physical infrastructure, when completed, will provide 4,000 square meters of space with the following facilities: laboratories for technology training and research, innovation hub, co-working spaces for tech innovation startups, Tier 3 data center, conferencing facilities, offices and meeting rooms, commercial lettable spaces, gaming area, restaurant, ancillary facilities. The technology laboratories will be fitted with the next generation ICT equipment and applications to provide the youth of Ghana with practical training in Industry 4.0 technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, cloud computing, 3D printing, robotics, Internet of Things, IoT, advanced manufacturing techniques, cybersecurity, genetic engineering. The project also seeks to establish a complete ecosystem at the hub through remote access delivery to facilitate job creation for national development. The ecosystem shall comprise of MDAs, technology companies, startups, incubators, research agencies, leading universities globally, foundations worldwide, to create a community. 1. The ecosystem community shall bridge the divide between academia and industry and provide solutions to challenges in the key sectors of health, agriculture, and educational sectors of the economy. 2. It shall also run an innovation program providing mentoring and networking for the youth in tech startups. 3. The ecosystem community shall establish an innovation fund to support startups, research agencies, and other entities in the ecosystem. MTN Ghana and the Ministry of Communications and Digitization are championing the Ghana digital agenda for Ghana's development. Welcome to the digital age.
Everyone needs the perfect snack to munch on during a fun moment.
Wow.
Enjoy the tasty McBerry Twist cupcakes, deliciously baked and packaged for a sweet treat. Premium quality cakes baked with love for all, enriched in butter and milk.
Yummy. Oh,
McBerry Twist cupcakes, simply irresistible. Try one today. This advert is FDA approved.
To ask questions at the end of his presentation. We are live on Facebook at the Bank of Ghana, on the bank's website, bog.go.gh, and on YouTube, Bank of Ghana. It's time to listen to the chairman. And with a big round of applause, I respectfully invite the chairman of MPC and Governor of Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, to deliver his statement for today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is this working?
Yes, it's working.
Yeah, okay. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media, and welcome to the press briefing after the 112th Monetary Policy Committee meetings which took place last week. The committee deliberated on a variety of macroeconomic issues, including the impact of the domestic debt exchange on the economy, recent macroeconomic developments, and risks to the inflation and growth outlook. A summary of the assessment and key considerations that informed the committee's decision on the stance of monetary policy is provided below. The global economic outlook remains uncertain despite declining food and energy prices, reopening of the Chinese economy, and improvements in business and consumer confidence. The latest Purchasing Managers' Indices point to some rebound in economic activity, driven mainly by the services sector. Notwithstanding these positive global developments, factors such as the recent financial sector turbulence in the United States and lingering geopolitical tensions continue to keep uncertainty at heightened levels. In broad terms, downside risks remain and continue to drag rebound in economic activity. These are further being compounded by difficult policy trade-offs and sovereign debt distress in some emerging market and developing economies. Against this backdrop, the IMF has revised its growth projections downwards by 0.1% to 2.8% in 2023, compared with 3.4% in 2022. Global headline inflation continues to ease in several economies, reflecting synchronized monetary policy tightening, declining energy and food prices, and an ease in supply chain bottlenecks. However, underlying inflationary pressures have remained strong due to lingering effects of past shocks, tight labor markets, and strong wage growth. Consequently, central banks have continued to tighten policy rates, albeit at a slower pace, as headline inflation moderates. Weaker growth prospects and anticipation of less hawkish monetary policy stance have resulted in lower government bond yields in advanced economies. Global equity prices, which fell following the recent failure of some banks in the United States, have since recovered. In the outlook, the expectation is for further ease in financing conditions stemming from moderating inflation, slower pace of policy rate hikes by central banks, and relative stability in the banking sector in key jurisdictions. On the domestic front, price development since the last NPC meeting in March 2023 point to continued easing of inflationary pressures, with 2 additional consecutive declines in headline inflation. There has been a further deceleration in headline inflation to 45% in March and then to 41.2% in April 2023. The ease in inflation has largely been supported by monetary policy tightening, relatively stable exchange rates, and declining international crude oil prices, which have allowed ex-pump petroleum prices to be adjusted downwards. From the beginning of the year to April 2023, headline inflation has recorded a decline of 12.9%. Non-food inflation has declined by 14.5%, while food inflation also fell by 11.1%. Underlying inflationary pressures are also easing, as the bank's core measure of inflation declined for the 4th consecutive month. Core inflation, which excludes energy and utility prices, declined to 41.7% in April 2023 from 44.6% in March, and 52% in February. Similarly, except for banking sector expectations, which was broadly unchanged, both consumer and business inflation expectations dipped in April 2023. On growth conditions, the latest release by the Ghana Statistical Service shows that the real GDP growth moderated to 3.1% in 2022 compared with 5.1% growth recorded in 2021. Non-oil GDP growth was 3.8%, down from 6.6% over the same comparative period. The decline in growth was driven by a slowdown in the agricultural and service sectors, whereas industry recovered, driven by increased gold production relative to the contraction recorded in 2021. The updated Real Composite Index of Economic Activity contracted by 6.4% in March 2023, compared to a contraction of 7.2% in the previous month, and a growth rate of 4.6% in March 2022. The main indicators that weighed down the index during the period were imports, cement sales, credit to the private sector, and port activity. Domestic VAT collections, industrial consumption of electricity, and tourist arrivals, however, improved during the review period. The bank's latest confidence surveys, conducted in April 2023, showed further improvements in sentiments. Consumer confidence improved on the back of easing inflationary pressures, which led to consumer optimism about prospects of future economic conditions. Similarly, businesses met short-term company targets during the period and expressed positive sentiments about company and industry prospects on the back of improving consumer demand and relative stability in the local currency. The survey findings were broadly aligned with observed trends in Ghana's PMI for April 2023, which signaled improvements in business conditions for the third successive month. In the 4 months of the year, broad money supply recorded strong growth driven by an expansion in net domestic assets of the depository corporation sector, largely on account of net claims on government. Net foreign assets, on the other hand, contracted. Annual growth in broad money supply was 45.6% in April 2023, compared with 19.9% growth in April 2022. The growth in M2 Plus reflected in all the components. Reserve money also grew by 46.5% year-on-year in April 2023, compared with 33.8% annual growth a year earlier. Private sector credit generally slowed in line with the tightening monetary policy stance, banks' portfolio rebalancing after the domestic debt exchange, and moderation in economic activity. Nominal growth in private sector credit eased to 19.8% in April 2023, relative to 26.5% growth recorded in April 2022. In real terms, private sector credit contracted by 15.2% compared with 2.4% growth recorded over the same comparative period. On the money market, interest rates broadly trended upward in April 2023 at the short end of the yield curve, consistent with the tightening policy stance. The 91-day and the 182-day Treasury bill rates increased to 19.67% and 22.29% respectively in April 2023, from 16.22% and 16.72% respectively in April 2022. Similarly, the rate on the 364-day instrument increased to 27.04% in April 2023 from 18.93% in April 2022. The interbank weighted average rate increased to 25.89% in April 2023 from 16.46% in April 2022, underpinned by policy rate hikes during the review period. In tandem, average lending rates of banks rose to 31.66% in April 2023 compared to 21.6% in the same period of 2022. The 2022 audited financial statements of banks reflected the full impact of the domestic debt exchange program and the challenging operating environment that prevailed in 2022. Most banks reported significant losses on the back of the mark-to-market valuation losses on their respective holdings in Government of Ghana bonds following the implementation of the DDEP. Other losses were due to high impairments on loans and rising operating costs. The industry posted before-tax losses of 8 billion Ghana cedis in 2022, compared with a profit of 7.4 billion Ghana cedis recorded in 2021. After-tax loss was 6.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2022 relative to profit after tax of 4.8 billion Ghana cedis in 2021. The main profitability indicators, namely return on assets and return on equity, all turned negative in 2022 because of the industry's loss position. The 2022 audited financial statement of banks also pointed to some impairments in capital levels, although most banks posted capital adequacy ratios above the 10% regulatory minimum at the end of December 2022. This was attributed to the effect of the rollout of the temporary regulatory reliefs extended to banks to cushion them against the impact of the DDEP, as was done at the onset of the COVID pandemic. In the first 4 months of this year, prudential data shows some turnaround in the banking sector's performance following the conclusion of the DDEP and following consensus reached among stakeholders on the treatment of losses arising from sale. Banks continue to rebalance their portfolios in response to the impact of the DDEP on their balance sheet, shifting away from medium to long-term investments to short-term investments and increases in new loans. In general, the banks returned to making profits in the first 4 months of 2023, broadly reflecting higher operating income. Loan loss provisions also increased relative to a year ago due to the pickup in credit growth and elevated credit risks. These developments culminated in a 47% increase in profit before tax in April 2023 compared with 26.3% growth recorded during the same period a year ago. Similarly, the industry's net income or profit after tax increased to 2.8 billion Ghana cedis from 1.9 billion, representing a 45.8% increase in April 2023. The industry's return on assets increased to 5.5% from 4.7%, while return on equity rose to 36.3% from 22.3%. Key financial soundness indicators remain strong on the back of the impact of the regulatory reliefs. The industry's capital adequacy ratio adjusted for the reliefs was 14.8% in April 2023, higher than the revised prudential minimum of 10%, but lower than the 21.3% recorded in April 2022. The decline in the ratio highlights the increase in risk-weighted assets of banks from the impact of exchange rate changes and some losses on mark-to-market investments. The industry's non-performing loan ratio deteriorated to 18% in April 2023 from 14.3% in April 2022, reflecting higher loan impairments and elevated credit risks. The industry's liquidity indicators have also improved following the implementation of the revised cash reserve requirements. Provisional data on budget execution for the first quarter of 2023 indicated an overall cash budget deficit of 6.7 billion Ghana cedis against a program deficit of 18.5 billion Ghana cedis. The outturn was based on total revenue and grants of 26 billion Ghana cedis, which was below the program target of 33.6 billion Ghana cedis. Total expenditure amounted to 32.7 billion Ghana cedis, below the target of 52.1 billion Ghana cedis. The resulting cash deficit was financed mainly from domestic sources. The corresponding primary balance on cash basis for the period was a deficit of 596 million Ghana cedis against the target deficit of 4.6 billion Ghana cedis. On the international commodities market, prices of Ghana's key exports remain volatile. Brent crude oil prices fell by 21.8% on a year-on-year basis to $82.7 per barrel in April 2023, compared with $105.8 per barrel in April 2022, mainly on the back of reduced demand amid fears of a recession. Cocoa prices remained elevated during the first 4 months of 2023, driven mainly by lower production volumes from top grower Ivory Coast. At $2,612.8 per ton in January 2023, cocoa prices rose by 13% on a year-on-year basis to $2,924.37 per ton in April. Gold prices have remained bullish this year, supported by economic uncertainty. In April 2023, the average price of gold reached an all-time high of $2,000.69 per fine ounce, up by 3.4% on a year-on-year basis. The price volatility and varied production volumes of the key commodities impacted export performance during the period. From January to April, total export earnings declined by 3.6% year-on-year to $5.6 billion on the back of lower crude oil exports and to a lesser extent non-traditional exports, as gold and cocoa exports increased. Crude oil exports fell by 36.7% to $1.2 billion, mainly on account of both lower price and production volume effects, as the 10 fields declined from a production of 30,000 barrels per day to 24,000 barrels per day. However, gold exports increased by 15.9% to $2.2 billion, driven by higher export volumes, and cocoa beans export also rose by 30.3% to $950.8 million, largely on the back of increased production volumes. The total import bill over the review period was provisionally estimated at $4 billion, down by 13.9% year-on-year, and driven largely by non-oil imports, and to a lesser extent by oil and gas imports. Non-oil imports compressed by 16.8% year-on-year to $2.8 billion, in line with slowdown in economic activities. Currency depreciation and easing global inflation. Oil and gas imports dropped by 6.3% to $1.2 billion due to declining crude oil prices on the international market. The higher import compression relative to the marginal decline in export earnings resulted in a trade surplus of $1.6 billion in the first 4 months of 2023 compared to a trade surplus of $1.2 billion in the same period of 2022. The current account recorded a surplus of $661 million in the first quarter of 2023, compared with a deficit of $554 million over the same period in 2022, on account of the larger trade surplus, lower services and income payments due to the external debt service suspension, and higher remittance flows. The capital and financial accounts, however, recorded a net outflow of $956 million compared with a net outflow of $451 million in the corresponding period of 2022. This was on the back of lower foreign direct investment inflows, portfolio reversals, and other investment outflows. The developments in the current and capital and financial accounts resulted in an overall balance of payments deficit of $354 million in the first quarter of 2023, compared with a $934 million deficit recorded in the same period in 2022. Gross international reserves at the end of March 2023 stood at $5.1 billion, equivalent to 2.4 months of import cover, compared with the end December stock position of $6.2 billion, equivalent to 2.7 months of import cover. Gross international reserves, excluding oil funds, encumbered and pledged assets, stood at $1.4 billion. Net international reserves as of March 2023 stood at $2.1 billion. With the approval of the IMF's supported program and receipt of the first tranche of the disbursement, gross international reserves have increased to $5.7 billion as at Friday, 19th May 2023, equivalent to 2.6 months of import cover. The local currency recorded some gains amid positive sentiments on developments in the economy. The Ghana cedi depreciated by 1.9% in March 2023 and appreciated by 0.6% in April. The marginal recovery was supported by the successful conclusion of the DDEP, progress made with Ghana's external debt restructuring towards the attainment of the IMF program, weakening US dollar, and muted demand pressures. In sum, the committee observed that the recent global outlook remains uncertain, with concerns about the potential spillovers from recent bank failures in the US amid a credit crunch and persisting geopolitical tensions. Based on these downside risks, global growth is projected to remain subdued in 2023 relative to 2022. Global headline inflation has moderated in many economies, but underlying inflation pressures remain strong due to tight labor markets and strong wage growth. The central banks have continued to tighten policy rates, though at a slower pace, and financing conditions remain somewhat tight. In the near term, expectations for slower policy rate hikes in the US have weakened the US dollar somewhat, supporting investor risk appetite for emerging market and developing economies assets. The committee acknowledged that the developments in the global economy will have implications for the domestic economy. Domestic economic activity remained weak in the first quarter of 2023. The latest GDP data suggested some slowdown, despite the positive signals of renewed consumer and business confidence in the economy. Indications are that growth will remain below potential in the medium term. Performance of the banking sector broadly reflected the general macroeconomic operating environment, as well as the impact of the DDEP, as indicated in the 2022 audited financial statements. However, prudential returns for the first 4 months of 2023 have shown signs of recovery in the profitability of banks and a gradual improvement in solvency positions supported by regulatory reliefs issued to safeguard the stability of the financial sector. The committee assessed that the recent approval of the 3 billion ECF arrangement has reinforced recovery efforts at restoring macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability. This should further help re-establish investor confidence in the domestic economy. While this development is positive for the domestic economy, it is conditional on a strong implementation of the fiscal and structural policies under the program going forward. These include structural reforms on tax policy, revenue administration, and public financial management to boost revenues and reposition fiscal policy implementation on a consolidated and sustainable path. The committee further noted the significant decline in headline inflation from the beginning of the year of more than 12%. The percentage of items in the CPI basket with inflation of more than 50% and above is receding, an indication of a strong return to the disinflation path. This is also supported by core inflation, which is also easing at a fast pace. The tight monetary policy, through additional liquidity management operations to address excess liquidity conditions in the market, relative stability in the local currency, and easing of ex-pump petroleum prices have all supported the disinflation process. Furthermore, the Bank of Ghana has signed the Memorandum of Understanding on zero financing to the budget to eliminate fiscal dominance and allow for a faster ease in inflation towards the target band. These policies should provide the much-needed anchor to reinforce the disinflation process and reset the economy on the path of recovery. Given these considerations, the Monetary Policy Committee decided to maintain the monetary policy rate at 29.5%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very big round of applause for Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, it's question time. Your name and media house, respectfully, 2 questions, not more than 2. Let's be very brief. Toma, Najeble, and Netele, and George Rafi. So, Toma, please.
Okay. Good morning, Governor. First of all, considering the situation concerning our gross international reserves, which have declined further since the beginning of this year, is any part of the IMF funds going to be used for budget support rather than balance of payments support? You know, normally we know it's used for balance of payments, but the last time we did an ECF, towards the end, they allowed a certain part used for budget support. Is that going to be the case here, or is it entirely for budget of balance of payments support? The other question is this: has any bank asked for emergency liquidity assistance despite the first quarter recovery? And if any bank does, what will be the Bank of Ghana's stance on meeting such a request? And is any bank going to be asked to increase its capital buffers because maybe the losses of last year have taken money out from the income surplus accounts? Okay. Thank you.
Toma.
Good morning, Governor. My name is Najak Bleago with GBC. My first question has to do with the release of the summary of economic reports by the Bank of Ghana over the weekend. What has contributed to the significant drop in the public debt, that is from 575 billion as at the end of November last year to 432 billion as at December 2022? And again, why would the Bank of Ghana not draft a new BOG law entirely rather than revising the old Act 612 for the second time? You know, the first revision was done in 2016, that is Act 918. Considering recent development both domestically and globally, why won't the Bank of Ghana consider an entirely new act to inculcate the current development? Thank you.
George.
My name is George for Joy FM. Quick one, when you look at your summary of economic and financial data, and we look at how the city's performance in December impacted heavily on the debt dynamics, does it put some more pressure on BOG to be more heavy in the set of monetary measures in trying to stabilize the city as well as inflation, because of the extra benefit that it brings to the whole economy? And looking at, I mean, if I'm right, I mean, 141 billion Ghana cedi reduction in our debt stock, if it's really because of what happened in December, that is huge. And if the city should stabilize further, what could be the implications going forward? So should we be more aggressive in this space in trying to do more to try and stabilize the situation going forward? Also, and just a quick follow-up to maybe Thomas' question, but maybe you answer it as well. There are some who are still arguing about the impact of the monetary tightening on the inflation rate slowdown. There are some who also arguing that maybe economic activities have slowed down, there isn't much demand and all the rest, and that is what is fueling the drive. What data do you have at your end to support this drastic reduction in inflation, whether it's attributed mainly to the monetary measures that you implemented?
Okay, George, thank you. Last one for this one. Hello.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Elom. I write posts for Economic Times newspaper. My first question, Mr. Governor, when we look at the IMF program, they were suggesting that we need to tighten our policy rates further. And I just want to know whether this wouldn't be a counterproductive for growth, more especially given the taxes increases in the steep utility prices as part of the IMF conditionalities. My second question is, will the money from the IMF solve our dollar deficit? If not, what next? Thank you.
Okay, Elon, thank you. Mr. Chairman, we are ready for response.
Yeah, thank you very much for these sets of questions. To start with Thomas' question on the IMF resources and whether this is a balance of payments or budget support. The IMF was very clear that on this particular occasion, this support is for the budget. So all that means is that we are going to credit the government with a cedi equivalent of 600 million cedis, $600 million. So that goes to support the execution of the budget. Obviously, the Bank of Ghana would benefit from the foreign exchange reserve cover that comes with that. So, you know, if it had been a pure balance of payment support, there would have been no counterpart to support the budget. And that would have meant that we would have fully sterilized the impact of the foreign exchange inflow. So this is almost sterilized, you know, liquidity to the budget. And that means that the Bank of Ghana would have to manage the liquidity implications of that budget support. Then your next question was on whether any bank has asked for liquidity assistance. We have not had any bank ask for liquidity assistance, as I said, partly because of the regulatory reliefs that we gave them. Remember, we reduced the reserve requirements as part of this DDEP exchange. But I always make the point that should any bank need liquidity, the Bank of Ghana would stand ready to provide the resources in line with rules for liquidity assistance. And then your other question on whether any bank is going to be asked to increase their capital buffers, the answer is yes. The impact of the exchange has been to reduce the capital buffers of banks. So if you look at the analysis that was done, when we take cognizance of the 3% additional buffer, right, the banks would need to add up to their capital. Right now we have reduced the capital adequacy ratio to 10%. And we are hoping that over the next 3 years, the banks would be able to rebuild their capital buffers. And hopefully at that time we may bring in the additional 3% capital buffers. So yes, most banks are working towards that. They have been given a period, I think up to September, to submit to us what their recapitalization plans are. And we will be following up on that to ensure that banks, instead of distributing profits that they have started making, use those resources to rebuild, their capital buffers. Now, Chibli, I think your question has been answered by Joy FM. He explained to you what led to the drop in largely due to the exchange rate appreciation that we saw. And you all know what happened at the end of last year. The very large depreciation of the CD was corrected somewhat in the latter part of the year, and that helps in terms of the CD value of the debt. I will come to your question on the Bank of Ghana law, but let me, since I've started discussing the CD and the debt, because the question by Joy FM on the CD's performance and debt dynamics, I think it's an important one, and it has to do with the issue of debt sustainability. It's at the very heart of the debt sustainability and the composition of our debt. So when half your total debt stock is denominated in foreign exchange, slight movements in your exchange rate, the sensitivity of your debt to exchange rate movements become paramount in the sustainability of that debt. So this is one of the major problems that we have faced probably since 2020. Anytime you saw a slight movement in the currency, it complicates, the government has to find more resources to service that debt. And this is how the debt became almost unsustainable over that period. So yes, when you have a high composition of foreign debt in your total debt stock, you must be, sensitive to the management of the exchange rate. But that doesn't mean that the Bank of Ghana's policy is to focus on a particular exchange rate. We are focused on the inflation rate, and the interest rate decisions that we take, are geared towards attaining an inflation target. But the two are interrelated, right? If you're successful in bringing down the inflation rate, that should also help to stabilize the exchange rate somewhat. And then the impact of the monetary tightening on inflation, I think the evidence is clear. You look at the core inflation numbers, for example. This is the reason why we take out the supply side factors in the headline inflation rate. We take out energy, we take out utility. These are supply side factors. When you strip out all of those supply side factors, you get a sense of underlying inflation, which gives you a better sense of the demand pull impact on inflation. And we see that that seems to be going down as well. So the monetary policy tightening is having an impact. In addition to that, if you look at the expectations of both businesses and consumers, in the inflation targeting framework, these expectations are very key, because that is really what leads to price setting behavior by businesses and the people in the market. The expectations of future inflation which inform their pricing decisions, and being able to anchor those expectations is key in bringing the rate of inflation down. So now I can go back to Najible's question on the Bank of Ghana's Act. Why don't we bring in a new act instead of revising the old act? I'm not sure if the two of them are mutually exclusive. If you look at the current act, remember they tried to improve it in 2016, but there are still inconsistencies and difficulties with implementation. First, there's the issue of when you talk about 5% limit, is it a stock measurement, right? Because at any time the central bank has claims on the government from 20 years ago. So is it that we have a stock limit of 5% of previous year's revenue, or is it a flow starting from a particular period of time? And how are you going to assess, that flow relative to the previous year's revenue of 5%? So there are measurement issues there which need to be clarified. There is the issue of emergency. What do you call an emergency? Let's define it very carefully, and to make it clear the conditions under which the rules can be breached. Then even the procedural issues in the law are not very clear. Who does the reporting to Parliament? Is it the governor or is it the Minister of Finance? All of these issues have to be clarified. In any case, the Bank of Ghana's most of our reporting to Parliament is done through the Ministry of Finance. So the governor doesn't have really direct reporting obligations to the Parliament. For me, it's not very clear. So all of those issues have to be properly clarified in the law. And I believe that the need to do those are there. But even if you had the most perfect law, what happened in 2022 would not have been different. Because the choice would have been either to grind the entire economy to a halt, allow government operations to come to a standstill, which is worse than the problem itself. So the issue of the law is fine, but certainly when you're in economic crisis, things have to be done differently. So I think I have heirloom and the IMF program asking for tightening monetary policy. I don't think you understood the IMF's issue on this. They were saying you should keep a tight monetary policy stance. Staying put at this meeting still is consistent with keeping a tight monetary policy stance. It's not only when you increase the policy rate that you are having a tight monetary policy stance. And remember, we have several ways of doing it. The amount of liquidity we withdraw from the system matters in terms of the impact on inflation. Where we set the reserve requirements for the banks matters for amount of liquidity in the system. So it's not only the policy rate that does the work. You have several instruments that you can use to do the work, and we decide on which instrument to use at any point in time to achieve the same effect. Will the IMF money solve our dollar deficit? You and I know that it won't, right? I mean, we have a basic problem, which is a medium-term challenge for the balance of payments. We need to do what we have to do to enhance export revenues, and at the same time manage, what we import, do our domestication, reduce our imports of non-essentials, eat local rice. All of those issues are important for long-term balance of payment sustainability. But in the short term, it's important because it helps us meet, our foreign exchange liquidity needs, and helps stabilize the foreign exchange market, helps anchor both our inflation and exchange rate expectations, and brings back confidence to the economy. In the medium to longer term, we need to focus on the real underlying issues of promoting exports and managing imports.
Chairman, thank you. Second round, Natalie, Morris, Maxwell, and then we'll take Mozart. So Natalie, let's have your questions.
Mine is my name is Natalie from ICT FM. Mine is a quick follow-up to Nash's question on the Bank of Ghana Act. What is the bank's, what is the central bank's genuine position on the call to revise it? If it's not because of the IMF calling for it or any other institution calling for it, what is the bank's genuine position on that? And then looking at the summary of macroeconomic data, the import bill saw a significant reduction. What accounted for that? The import bill, the total import saw a significant reduction. What's that?
What accounts for it?
Okay, ma'am.
My name is Morris with GTV. So we've seen a quick banking sector rebound. Did the stress test you did after the DDP point to this rebound? If it didn't, what did you really see? Now, given the rebound that we've seen, do we still need the Financial Stability Fund? And then my second question would be, the government has said it is not in a hurry to go to the capital market. In the very short term, what options do we have to ensure that growth is propelled? Thank you.
Maxwell, and then we'll do Mozart after this.
Funds from it, will it be treated as grants or loans? And the IMF said that the IMF is a bit concerned about the state of the financial sector, and they said it in their report. Do you share in those concerns? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
in quite baby.
Mommy, you she can see about Kotoso, the bugger. Give me sick from Lemonade Finance. While Brian and let me £10.
Lemonade Finance.
Sissy, they're sending money back home from UK, Canada, and now US. I accepted instant charges. Bien. Extinguishing in so ye unbeatable. We should me promo code. Like it, £10, $10, and $10 Canadian dollars. First transaction, what is this download to Lemonade Finance.
Welcome to the Ghana ICT Hub, a partnership between MTN Ghana and the Government of Ghana through the Ministry of Communications and Digitization. MTN pledged to support Ghana's digitization agenda in line with its ambition to lead the delivery of digital solutions for Africa's progress. In fulfillment of this pledge, MTN Ghana has committed $25 million toward the realization of the Ghana ICT Hub project. The objectives of the Ghana ICT Hub project is anchored on the following: to create an ICT-enabled environment for human capital and ICT skills development, to develop an ICT ecosystem through remote access delivery to facilitate job creation for national development, to provide a modern, state-of-the-art physical infrastructure to serve as a pillar for the digital Ghana agenda. The physical infrastructure, when completed, will provide 4,000 square meters of space with the following facilities: laboratories for technology training and research, innovation hub, co-working spaces for tech innovation startups, Tier 3 data center, conferencing facilities, offices and meeting rooms, commercial lettable spaces, gaming area, restaurant, ancillary facilities. The technology laboratories will be fitted with the next generation ICT equipment and applications to provide the youth of Ghana with practical training in Industry 4.0 technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, cloud computing, 3D printing, robotics, Internet of Things, IoT, advanced manufacturing techniques, cybersecurity, genetic engineering. The project also seeks to establish a complete ecosystem at the hub through remote access delivery to facilitate job creation for national development. The ecosystem shall comprise of MDAs, technology companies, startups, incubators, research agencies, leading universities globally, foundations worldwide, to create a community. 1. The ecosystem community shall bridge the divide between academia and industry and provide solutions to challenges in the key sectors of health, agriculture, and educational sectors of the economy. 2. It shall also run an innovation program providing mentoring and networking for the youth in tech startups. 3. The ecosystem community shall establish an innovation fund to support startups, research agencies, and other entities in the ecosystem. MTN Ghana and the Ministry of Communications and Digitization are championing the Ghana Digital Agenda for Ghana's development. Welcome to the digital age.
Is asking for a federal limit to the interventions in order to build the reserve buffers. So I want to know what would be those federal limit that which, or should we expect any federal limit in that regard? And the second question has to do with the unified flexible exchange rate in the market. If we can get some clarity on that.
Joshua, thank you. Shama, with your permission, last question from Justice. Justice, very brief.
Thank you very much, Governor, and congratulations on chalking the IMF deal. Now, so if you said banks will need to, increase their reserve buffers, about how much does the bank think will be enough as the stated capital for the commercial banks, looking at the exchange rate, the depreciation of the cedi as of now? Thank you.
Justice, we're ready for a response. Thank you.
So the first question, is it Nanoye or something? Yeah. This was on the World Bank DPO loan, right? 1.6 billion over 3 years. But if you look at the DPO policy matrix, the issues vary from fiscal and debt sustainability, financial sector stability, energy sector operational and financial performance, resilience to climate shock. So there are a lot of areas that the World Bank would be looking at. Then the question from the gentleman, I don't think quite get where he was coming from, on the liquidity impact of the budget support. I think this is the question he asked. And as I explained, the difference between balance of payment support and budget support, I sort of went into that if you had a balance of payment support, there is no counterpart inflow to the budget. So it's fully sterilized. That foreign exchange inflow is fully sterilized. But when it is budget support, the CD counterpart goes to support the budget. So you have that amount of CD liquidity so long as the government spends those resources going into the economy. And we have to make an assessment of the consistency, what that does to our liquidity projections. And if part of it has to be, taken out of the economy, that's what we do as part of our liquidity management and open market operations. So it's very consistent with the framework that we have in place. Then I know as I see the first question on monetary policy. Yes, the IMF reforms mainly fiscal. And what is the monetary policy counterpart? It's an interesting point. So a lot of our problems are fiscal, yes. But there is a monetary policy part of it, to ensure that our markets work more effectively, ensure that our inflation targeting is more effective. So there's going to be a lot of work on that, and also to ensure that our foreign exchange market is more efficient. And this is where the question, I'll come back to your question on the unified exchange rate that they were referring to. So our part of it is, and remember, the central bank is also responsible for the financial sector and also to ensure financial sector stability. And if you go in there, you would see the measures that we are supposed to put into place to ensure financial stability. It's a lot of work to be done. Rebuilding the capital buffers of the banks, making sure that the banks are stable, return them back to the level of robustness that we saw in 2019. We had done a lot of work between 2017 and 2019, recapitalized all the banks, with very strong capital buffers, very strong indicators on profitability, on liquidity, on efficiency. And then we had the COVID-19 come in, weaken those capital buffers. And then now we have had the debt exchange also weaken those capital buffers again. Imagine if we had not done the earlier cleanup, where we would have been today. So we are confident, about the outlook that the banks would rebuild their capital buffers again over the next 3-year period. And then you asked the question about the Gold for Oil initiative. It is still ongoing. We are still buying gold. And I believe that the next shipment probably, I don't know, you can get the details from our financial markets, but the program is still on. And remember, we are not only buying gold for oil, we are also buying gold for reserves, for our international reserves. And this is an area where we have chalked a lot of success. I believe we've almost doubled our holdings of gold within this short period that we started, from the 8 tons to almost 15 tons, except that we also gave some of it up for the oil, right? Otherwise, we would have doubled our gold holdings by now. So it has been a very successful program, to the extent that it also helped, reduce the BDC forward rates, which fed into the pricing of, oil prices at the pump. It has also helped to bring, petroleum prices down, and therefore that policy has been, very, very good, both in terms of building central bank reserves and also helping with the general broad stabilization. So our reserve levels would have been much lower without the Gold for Reserves program. And I think it helped us very much during these very difficult times. Winston, Metro, access to credit, private sector decline. Yes, this is to be expected in the crisis environment when inflation is where it was and exchange rates were. The private sector is not able to flourish under those types of conditions. You would also notice that non-performing loans started going up, and therefore the risks associated with lending also went up. So this is the reason why commercial banks would normally not want to lend in that kind of environment. So we expect that as the economy stabilizes, we would see an improvement in the private sector's access to credit. And then you also asked about the structure for compliance on the zero financing limit. This is not the first time we had this rule in place, and we were very effective in ensuring that the zero financing, was stuck to. In fact, throughout 2017, 2018, 2019, we had zero financing. This is the budget, including 2021, right? Including 2021. So the exceptions were the year of the COVID, this is the 2020, and the crisis year of 2022. So we have been very effective in managing that issue, contrary to what you hear out there. Joshua BNFT. Yes, so this is the IMF's issues about the efficiency in the foreign exchange market. And I think they in a sense, when we brought in the controls, right, not to provide foreign exchange for certain commodities, really, those are exchange control measures and sort of takes away from the liberalization of the foreign exchange market. So in their view, these kinds of crisis management, they were crisis management measures, that we took, given the environment that we had in 2022. So as the situation normalizes, right, we do not expect to continue, with those kinds of restrictions on who gets access to foreign exchange and who doesn't, because the foreign exchange, resource constraint would probably be reduced. So that's really what they are referring to in that report. And in that sense, the issue of the unified exchange rate, because when you do that, you create different markets for foreign exchange in the country. So if I'm importing rice, I have to look for a different market to go and buy the foreign exchange, probably at another rate, to be able to import rice. This is the issue. So we want to, as the situation normalizes, we want to unify all the pockets of demand out there into a single, foreign exchange market for Ghana. This is the theoretical view out there. I believe that was the last question. Oh, is there any? Yes, Justice wants the number on the capital buffers. These are numbers vary from bank to bank. Not all the banks have the same problem. Some banks need more capital than others. So it varies from bank to bank. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Press, thank you for coming. Respectfully, let's report accurately. Let's not be in a rush to break the news. You have a very good collaboration. If there's any information and data, we'll also have some of our directors who are here to provide some clarifications in some of the other issues that you have. Mr. Chairman, thank you once again, First and Second Deputy Governors. Thank you, and members of the MPC, thanks for coming. For our viewers who joined us, our live broadcast, and for some media houses, Financial Times, and others who joined our live broadcast, thank you for joining in. God willing, we'll meet soon. Good morning.
Mommy, you first can see my cotoso. Pepoga, send me sick from Lemonade Finance. Brian did the shade and let me £2.
Lemonade Finance.
Say they're sending money back home from UK, Canada, and now US. I accepted instant charges. Extinguishing unbeatable. We should make promo code Dr. Like £10, $10, and $10 Canadian for the first transaction. We just send this guy a coffee. Download to Lemonade Finance.
Welcome to the Ghana ICT Hub, a partnership between MTN Ghana and the Government of Ghana through the Ministry of Communications and Digitization. MTN pledged to support Ghana's digitization agenda in line with its ambition to lead the delivery of digital solutions for Africa's progress. In fulfillment of this pledge, MTN Ghana has committed $25 million toward the realization of the Ghana ICT Hub project. The objectives of the Ghana ICT Hub project is anchored on the following: to create an ICT-enabled environment for human capital and ICT skills development, to develop an ICT ecosystem through remote access delivery to facilitate job creation for national development, to provide a modern, state-of-the-art physical infrastructure to serve as a pillar for the digital Ghana agenda. The physical infrastructure, when completed, will provide 4,000 square meters of space with the following facilities: laboratories for technology training and research, innovation hub, co-working spaces for tech innovation startups, Tier 3 data center, conferencing facilities, offices and meeting rooms, commercial lettable spaces, gaming area, restaurant, ancillary facilities. The technology laboratories will be fitted with the next generation ICT equipment and applications to provide the youth of Ghana with practical training in Industry 4.0 technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, cloud computing, 3D printing, robotics, Internet of Things, IoT, advanced manufacturing techniques, cybersecurity, genetic engineering. The project also seeks to establish a complete ecosystem at the hub through remote access delivery to facilitate job creation for national development. The ecosystem shall comprise of MDAs, technology companies, startups, incubators, research agencies, leading universities globally, foundations worldwide, to create a community. 1. The ecosystem community shall bridge the divide between academia and industry and provide solutions to challenges in the key sectors of health, agriculture, and educational sectors of the economy. 2. It shall also run an innovation program providing mentoring and networking for the youth in tech startups. 3. The ecosystem community shall establish an innovation fund to support startups, research agencies, and other entities in the ecosystem. MTN Ghana and the Ministry of Communications and Digitization are championing the Ghana Digital Agenda for Ghana's development. Welcome to the digital age.
I want you so bad, Alpha Cracker. I want you. I wanna say yes, I can't resist. I want you. Ooh, I want you, Alpha Cracker. I want you so bad, Alpha Cracker.
Alpha goodness rich in milk and butter. In Alpha Cracker. Yummy and deliciously crunchy.
But I can't resist you.
Alpha Crackers. Simply irresistible.
This advert is FDA approved.
Everyone needs the perfect snack to munch on during a fun moment. Wow. Enjoy the tasty but very twist cap.
If you do that to your partner, you literally hate him. You understand? You are his worst enemy.
Right there.
Mons and Cuddles on GhanaWeb TV. Now, today's conversation is one that has really broken marriages, broken trust. And here, as we love to say, we love to spice up your relationship. So let's give you the ones and twos, things that you do in your marriage that can cause a separation or divorce, and if possible, avert it. So I have here with me, seated in my couch, Anastasia Okine. She is a content creator and the co-founder of Hey Girl. She is a foundation. Yeah, they are doing amazing. Later on, we're going to talk about that. Sure. So, Anas, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Great. And we've been sandwiched by the senior accounts manager of Benchmark Marketing, Victor Wellridge. Victor, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I love your gray hair.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Victor is married. Let me just add that too. But Anastasia and I will be doing the conversation. We're just taking a look at what will influence a wife or a husband to hide properties from their spouse. It's a big deal. It's a deal breaker for some people, and to date, it's caused a lot of separation. So we just want to find out, generally, if you say for better, for worse, a man will leave his home and join his wife, the two shall become one. Vic, I just want to find out, what will influence a man to say, okay, I have properties, but I don't want my wife to know about it, I'm keeping it, and until when do you even disclose your assets?
Right. All right. So thank you very much, Paula. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine.
Yeah. Yeah. So this particular topic is a very big deal when it comes to marriage. Not just marriage, even with friendships and people in relationships. You know, keeping things, coveting things, hiding things, secrets. Secrets are always a major topic in any relationship. That determines the make or break of it. So when somebody keeps a secret, with your phone, your password, it starts from there, you know, password issues. So in a relationship, I want to start from a certain angle. So when you're in a relationship and then you quarrel and argue about passwords, I don't know your password. Every week you change your password. I don't know, I want to know about it. I want to know why you're keeping passwords. And you argue about it, you argue about it, you argue about it. You even break up because of password. Somehow you come back and then one day you decide that let's marry. So you marry, yet you still have the issue of password in your marriage. You send it into your marriage. What has happened is that you've not solved a problem that has the potential of escalating to something big, as we are discussing in this topic, of you acquiring something and then keeping it from your partner. So if you have mastered the way and will to even keep passwords from your partner, then you can do the same with any other thing, all right? And you see, when you get to a point in your marriage where the marriage now is about convenience, you know, you are married because of the kids, of I want children. And I'm in this marriage because of my children, not you anymore. When the center of attention is not your partner anymore, then you don't see the need to now, you know, be responsible for them or be accountable to them.
Okay,
right?
so you're not feeling the responsibility to be accountable to them leads one to hide properties or whatever it is from
Yes,
their
it's one of the factors.
It's one of the factors.
It's one of, there are so many other factors.
But let me ask you, you're married.
Yeah.
Would you hide such a thing from your partner, or you are very open?
Well, I'm very, very open. If I will hide anything, then it could be for a good motive. It could be for a reason that maybe I want to buy her a particular car.
You save the good motive for now. Now let's play the devil's advocate. So, and as Vic described it as a secret, keeping a secret from your partner, I just want to find out from you, if you're married, are you going to declare all your assets to your husband?
So then my question will be, at what point did I acquire these assets, right? So did I acquire them before the marriage or within the marriage? Now, if it is before the marriage, I don't see the need to.
Okay.
Because the thing is that, what am I declaring these assets to you for? What is the end goal, right? Is it to where you come to participate in the sustenance of what I have had before I met you? What is that knowledge of use to you for? If it's not, then I don't see any reason. However, if we are at a certain point in our relationship where declaring it, it's just like, you've got yours, I've got mine. It really doesn't affect anything, whether I know it or not. Okay, I'm just going to say it, but that's just for saying sake, not to get any, you know, contribution or some sort of, you know, ownership or claiming from the partner. No, I'm not gonna declare. I'm not declaring my assets in a relationship that I acquired before the relationship, before the marriage is certified.
So that's the thing. We tend to keep things. I think our generation currently, we tend to keep things from our partners because the people we end up with are not deserving. If you are really in love with someone, if you really chose right, this is the person who is meant for you, this is the person you see building a future with, I don't see what will hinder you from being open to them. These are the people who see your nakedness, you're having a child with a person, for better, for worse, you sleep in the same bed. Like, I don't really, of course, it might be that maybe the person that you're marrying is selfish and you've seen certain characters, as Anas was saying, if you come clean and then we are good. But then I really don't understand when it's married, because you are married, of course, so how?
You see, something must always go wrong for you to change your character towards your partner, right? So you may have experienced or seen a certain recurring problem with the person, with your partner, and you realize that this guy is not changing. Perhaps he's selfish, all right? So if he's selfish with his things, then why don't you also be selfish with yours? Okay.
But the thing is, wouldn't you have recognized these signs in the premarital stage?
Yes, you have. That's why I mentioned the thing about passwords. You see, it starts from somewhere.
The signs are always
passwords are so trivial. Like, that's not.
Yeah, some people literally break up because of toothpaste. You understand? And how their partner is not using it well. All right? Passwords are a big deal in certain relationships. Okay? You keep passwords. And I don't know why I can't pick your calls. I don't know why I can't know your password to know what's inside your phone.
All right.
And some people go to their bathrooms with their phones.
They're just busy something.
I got stuff to do. I know.
So if you find out that your husband, let's not say you have decided, okay, maybe sometimes if you getting married and then you've acquired properties before the marriage, you love to keep it to yourself. But how would you feel if your partner, maybe of 10 years or 15 years, you find out that he's got a complex. This complex is making money for him and all that, and maybe you have a joint account and this joint account is where you spend money from. How would you feel if would you say you've been betrayed if you find out that your partner had a huge edifice that is fetching him equal money that, you know, you knew nothing about it?
So yeah, that's a problem, because at this point, our agreements within this marriage is we are going to have a joint account. But then if that's the basis of our marriage, right, then to a certain degree, I would want to know, except we agreed on a specific amount. And so whichever way I'm bringing in that income, you don't need to know about it, right? But then if now you've got something elsewhere, and you still demand the same things of me per our marital agreement. I'm a woman, you're a man. What is the foundation of our marriage? Are we playing traditional gender roles here, right? Are we saying that you, the man, are the sole provider of the family we are creating for ourselves, such that to my underwear and everything is on you? And that is what a traditional marriage is. That is what we came to see growing up. I mean, within the context of traditional marriages with our parents and our grandparents and whatnot. Fortunately enough, it's not like that these days anymore. But if we are going that route, right, then I would want to know where else your money is coming from, because that is the agreement from the beginning. If it's not, then I don't care. Again, I'm a person is gonna, okay, so why are you hiding this sort of? But then was he intentionally hiding it, such that when he sees me coming, he's trying to put stuff, you know, somewhere else? That is just being malicious.
Let me just put it that they are can we kaba but it's a thing that sometimes they tell women who are going to get married.
Yeah.
Now you are married, so I'd love to get your view on this. In a situation where you made mention that sometimes it's for the good purpose, so maybe for your 10th anniversary you want to give a big gift to your partner, so then you are hiding this thing from the person. But in the case where you're going to get married and then your mom or your family tells you that, okay, you know, you are going to form a family, but you have to get something for the family. So then as a woman, she's thinking, I need to build a house for my mom, but I don't have to tell my partner. So you start the project, you buy the land, you start the project, you are building, and then your husband, it might be your money or odo, but then for your husband to find out that, okay, you are building a home or a house for your family and I knew nothing about it, I just want to know, are you obligated to tell the man that you are in the same house, the same room with that? This is the project I'm doing for my family. Maybe this is the project I'm doing for my sister. Or you say you move like that. Does that work? Oh, I'm just doing my thing. Does that work in marriage? Or once you come together, it should be a partnership?
Yes, absolutely. You see, once you're in a legal agreement with someone, unless maybe you just go and do the traditional, even the traditional thing is now legal. So once you're in a legal agreement with someone, whatever you do, whatever you acquire within that legal agreement, it's for both of you. So if the lady decides that I'm building a family house for her family, and she's doing that secretly, and I find out, sorry, I can take her to court. I can take her to court, and then the court will decide how that property will be distributed or shared. Definitely it won't go to her family. You understand? Because whatever it is, the resource that she's using to build that particular building would come from maybe the peace of mind I have given her at home. There's a certain stake, whether it is monetary or psychological. I have given her a certain peace of mind to be able to acquire wealth to build for her family. So I have a stake in there. Let me give you a story. So there was this banker who decided to divorce his wife of over 30 years of marriage for a younger lady. Then he decided to just let her go with nothing.
No compensation.
Nothing. You understand? And the lawyer for the lady, the woman who was basically facilitating the process, did some digging and discovered that this man on retirement had built a 5-bedroom apartment somewhere. The wife never knew all the period they were married, and he was planning to go and live there with his new bride. You understand? Once that was disclosed, it was tendered in the courts that this man has a property. Therefore, if he's leaving the wife, that property should be given to the wife. and he had another apartment or another building. So he can live in that and the new one given to the wife. So this man literally intentionally did not want to give anything to his wife. You understand? But it was discovered and the court took it for her because he acquired it whilst they were married.
They were married. And I said, it looks like you want to counter that.
Yeah, because the thing is, now I would want to ask, what was the basis of the divorce? He asked for the divorce, isn't it?
Yeah.
And why did he ask for a divorce? Because automatically when you ask for a divorce, as one partner in a relationship, you are 70% or some sort of percentage guaranteed to walk away with nothing from the marriage. Right? Now, if it's based on infidelity, that's where you have some sort of security that you are going to get something out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but this was not based on infidelity.
And the man wants to just bounce.
She did not, well, he said he doesn't have any property, he doesn't own anything. That was his argument, right? Yet, he had built a 5-bedroom house, he wanted to go and live in with his new bride. So he was literally hiding it. So when it was discovered, the court took it for the wife.
Well, it's somebody's situation, but I think it's all these things that we have. But then, as a woman, what will make you suspicious that maybe my husband is hiding something? Because it all starts with the suspicion, and the people start digging and they realize that they have properties.
Right.
What are some of the signs?
What would be a sign? I feel like if you don't go looking for them, you will not find them, first of all. Now, if you go looking, it's probably, I mean, based on maybe they are trying to hide certain documents from you. You've seen certain text messages or you've heard something, I don't know. But personally, I would not go poke. If they don't find it, they don't think I'm worthy or I should know about what they are doing.
You're not going to push it.
I'm not going to push it, especially if I know that I have no contribution towards it. And if that's not that's not how we operate in our marriage, I'm not going to push it. But then if I don't, I expect him also not to push it when he also recognizes that I'm also doing stuff aside.
Okay, so it all boils down to the agreement in the marriage. If you guys are like, okay, we are building properties, but then in the case when it's a loving relationship, you put your all into it. So those who put their all into it and find out that they've been cheated, they are the ones that, it hurts most. But then if we're like, we are there together. But the thing is, even with the all also means that what are we operating by? Right? Like we said from the beginning, you are a hard-working woman, and I always feel for a lot of men because in our setting, right, mostly women are the ones who are going to end up losing at the end of the day when it comes to a divorce. How many times have we seen men walking on the streets mad, and the reason for their mental whatever is because heartbreak and all that? It happens, but then
compared to women, compared to women, way more than women.
Okay, I have to do the research.
Way more than women.
No.
Okay.
See, if you just walk out there, count all the men you see out.
Maybe it might not be.
And most of them, you see, the thing is, the emotional instability and emotional issues, women have the tendency to absorb and contain it better than men.
I think it's true. No, a lot of women enjoy a lot of things. It's true. In marriages, you have to go in there. You're thinking, oh, for the men, for the kids, for all that, and then the state. So that's why a lot of women end up.
And
a lot of
women,
men even die before their wives. So many men die before their wives. Just look at.
But that's not because of emotional instability.
No, I'm just talking about. You see, women have a certain tenacity to hold things.
Because the society has made us done so.
Yes. So
as a woman,
so the woman has adapted to it. The man hasn't.
All right. So we can go on with that, but then I just want us to take a quick break. When we come back, the show continues. This is Moons and Cuddles on GhanaWeb TV. Now we're coming to you from Andy's Barber Studio here at the Legon City Mall. You can walk in anytime from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. And the services here are amazing. They have haircut here, braiding for the ladies and the gents. They even have dreads. You can come in for your braiding. They do facials and they do pedicure. Walk-in is a conducive place. You can sit, you can chat, you can bring your boyfriends, your girlfriends and all that. So for the women, you can bring your man whilst he's getting a haircut and you're getting braids. They are absolutely good. So you pass by Andy's Barber Studio here at the Legon City Mall for all the amazing services. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going back and forth with it and all that. But then I just want to create a scenario. Recently, there was this story in the news where a woman who is married, they have a kid, right? There's another child on the way. But the man is looking for separation, which might lead to divorce. Simply put, he realized that his wife was hiding a property, like, apartment where fetches her money, rent. And then she's got other cars where she used for this Uber, boats, stuff like that. And then with all this, the husband never knew. Now, what is more painful is that this woman earns more than the man in salary, right? He had no idea about it. So he's earning like something less than 5,000 cedis monthly. He gives the woman half of that. And she has all these properties that can fetch her money. And then she also makes demands, okay, I want a phone. If he doesn't get it, then she's pissed. So when the man found out that this was what his wife was doing, he's like, this is the death of me. Now the marriage is on the verge of the collapse, and then the woman is like, oh, she will do better. She's going to change the name into their name, and then she did that because she wanted to secure property for the family. That is one of the biggest reasons that people give. Now I want to find out from you and us, what the woman did, is it justifiable? And then moving forward, she wants to save her marriage. She's opted that, okay, fine, at this moment I'm willing to change into I messed up. That is what she's saying, just to save her marriage. Do you, from a woman's perspective, do you think what the woman did, the circumstances, the situation at home, and how she handled the issue, milking the husband while she could easily afford all those things, was it right? Was it the best thing she could have done?
I think what's at play here is a sense of morality and legality, right? So I feel like in a situation like this, we can't judge right and wrong. A lot of people don't base off right and wrong off morals. It's based on the law, right? In this sense, who is this woman? I think she's very malicious and whatever, vicious, wicked, whatever the word is in the books. However, I don't think because it looks like the trajectory of their relationship, the man was the provider.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Which had been agreed. That's how come he never had a problem with it from the beginning. What she's done with her money. So what if she wasn't building or acquiring assets with the money? What if she was just spending the money anyhow she wanted? What if there was no substantial evidence of that money she's acquired over all those years and such a thing never came out? Would that have been a problem? I feel like the man is being overly emotional.
So wait, if you were the husband and then you found out this was what your husband was doing, how would you handle it? Would you feel like, okay, your husband is being, acting also emotional?
My thing is, over all these years, has he ever inquired about how much she earns?
As far as is your word, you tell me, okay.
Exactly. So that means that in this marriage, to him, how much she earned or whatever she was bringing to the house had never been a problem. Why is it a problem now? The fact that I use this to acquire something? Does that make sense?
Well,
it was never a problem, was it? How much I was earning, what I was using my money for was never a problem, right?
But then it is a problem when it becomes marriage, because we are in this together. We are building a family. If you in debt, if you have a debt, two people have to come together and in marriage, right? It is not your problem, as you say. Once you're married, your problem is my problem. My joy is your joy. Yeah. So in such a situation, the man is wanting else. The woman is saying, "Oh, I'm going to change the name and all that." Think if you ever find yourself in that situation, what would you do? Are you going to opt for a divorce? Are you going to leave? And how is even your trust going? How are you going to regain your trust in your wife?
You see, this situation is very, very serious, but at the same time has a certain moral lesson for everybody to learn. The seriousness of the matter is this. What if the man had died, maybe a natural death, before knowing all of this? It would have been wasted efforts by the lady, since she said she was doing all this for the family, right?
For her family.
For her family, not her nuclear family, her extended family.
For her, yeah.
It even makes the situation even worse. You understand? It makes it worse. It explains the fact that she did not have the man in mind, and you said the man is malicious, but
I think the woman is malicious.
Yes,
morally.
I mean, exactly.
But
So
legally, she's not.
she still is. You see, the fact is, if you do that to your partner, you literally hate him. You understand? You are his worst enemy. He's actually living with his worst enemy without knowing. You understand? She might have good intention for her family, her extended family. They are happy she's doing it for them, right? But her nuclear family is suffering as a result of that. And the man whom she claims she is one with is the one most suffering from all of these things. And that makes her very, very evil. You understand? And one hero can be a villain to another person. That's the kind of role she's playing now. She's a hero to her extended family, but she's a villain to her husband. So the fact is that if I were the husband and I realize this, obviously I'll take her to court. I'll take her to court. This is not the time to change name and all that. If I had died, you would still have gone on with the properties and all that, and it would have been in the name of your extended family. What is worse is, what if she dies? How would the children or the child living also benefit from those things? We've had situations where extended families would throw out children from their parents' homes and all that. Has she thought of all of this?